Hi, y'all, and welcome back to the channel and another weekly horoscope. This week is very exciting. I really feel like these transits have not been easy, but I do feel like they're really propelling us into what's needed, especially with everything that is supporting Mars and Leo. We are really being pushed to evolve through chaos and conflict into confidence and embodiment of the changes or the wounds and triggers we've probably been healing for several years at this point. So I feel like it's all kind of culminating this week with Jupiter moving into Cancer and Mercury moving into Cancer, and both of them squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's this is like a big force and push to expand in new ways and to maybe prioritize things that we haven't been in order to do that and support ourselves through all of these changes and these challenges so we can really step into the lessons through integrating everything that's been coming up and really taking inspired action from a confident, brave, courageous place, right? That's like everything that Mars and Leo teaches us. And Mars and Leo will be harmonizing with Chiron this week. We'll also have the moon supporting it at one point this week after the full moon. So there's a lot of just positive stuff that's happening, as well as there is like that chaos and there is the challenges or the conflicts that are coming from Jupiter square Saturn and Neptune, Mercury being a part of that as well. Soon after it moves into Cancer, like despite the challenges, despite the conflicts, there is an opportunity for miracles. There is an opportunity to really kind of turn everything around and reap the benefits from it, even if it has felt challenging or chaotic, right? So I really feel like that's the big energy for this week. I think it's going to, like I said, really culminate and manifest with the full moon. I mean, full moon in Sagittarius is all about what's your truth? How can you live your truth, express your truth to the world from a grounded place and from a like unapologetic place. I feel like Sagittarius is one of the signs that is truly about empowerment and like acting from that empowered, confident, like bad bitch energy. And I think we're gonna start to really step into that more fully this week if you haven't been already. I don't know why the camera is blurry. Sorry about that. But let's get into, there we go, focused. The horoscopes for the week. We're gonna start with Aries. Also, before we start with the horoscopes, I do a weekly overview, general overview of what's moving this week and what's going to aspect each other, like day by day on my TikTok. It also gets posted to my Instagram. It gets sent out to my email peeps. It also gets posted in my membership, in my inner circle platform, which you don't need. You don't need to be in the inner circle to access the horoscopes in written form. You just need to create a free account, and you can access the not the horoscopes, but the like the overview of the week ahead and the transits on a daily basis through that. So the links for that are in the description if you want like an overview play by play of the energy of each day and exactly what's going to be happening. Okay, now let's get into the horoscopes. We'll start with Aries. So Aries rising, we start off this week with the moon opposite Uranus late on Sunday, early Monday, depending on where you are in the world. And those planets will be squaring Mars as well. So there could be some really big shift for you around community or money, how you're making it through a creative passion or project and needing to kind of just get your stuff together when it comes to that and taking the action that's needed around it. With Mercury and Jupiter both moving into your fourth house on Monday as well, there's a huge focus on your home. I believe I touched on this in the Jupiter and Cancer video that I did for you, Aries. I went over every rising sign and what Jupiter and Cancer could potentially bring based on where this is happening in your chart, but you're really going to see this focus shift into your home, your family life. And it might feel like there's challenges or conflicts between your sense of self and what's going on in your home or in your family. Later in the day on Monday, also, the moon is going to switch into Sagittarius, move into your ninth house. That is where the full moon will be. I believe for you, Aries, this full moon is really about your perception of life, your belief systems, the conditioning you've taken on from others, what conditioning you have held on to that's helpful versus what's not, releasing everything that doesn't serve you so you can step into a whole new timeline and reality. Then early on Wednesday, we do have that full moon. Like I said, it's going to bring up those themes. It's also going to square the north and south node. So again, there could be a lot of release around this full moon that prompts you to step into a new direction, maybe related to health, wellness, spirituality, mental health, physical health, all that good kind of stuff when it comes to taking care of yourself and what systems and structures you have in place to be able to do that. You're also going to have Mars harmonizing with Chiron in your first house, between your fifth and first houses. So again, there could be this push for you to really, especially after this full moon later on Wednesday, there could be this really big push for you to share some creative project or passion with the world in order to maybe change your financial picture, as you do have Venus in your second house now in Taurus. Then on Thursday, the moon is going to move into your 10th house, putting, again, this focus on what you're doing for work, career, what you're sharing, what structures and systems you have in place there. But it might feel at odds with your home in some way because it's going to be opposite Jupiter and Mercury in Cancer. There could just feel like there's a tug of war between what you want to do in your career, the structures and systems and maybe schedule you have in place there or don't, and your home life and your family life and what's going on there. It's also there's going to be a T-square on this day between Saturn and Neptune as well. So again, it could really put a lot of pressure on you, your sense of self, and what needs to really be taken, what accountability or responsibility needs to be taken about you to make these changes you want to make. Then on Friday, the moon is going to continue to move through your 10th house. I feel like this is when it's going to harmonize with Venus in your second house. So this could be like you get the clarity you need to do what you want to do in your career, and you start to really put the feelers out there to take the action. We're also going to have Mars. There's so much going on this week. It's honestly overwhelming. We're going to have Mars challenging Uranus as well. So there could be this sudden, unexpected push through some conflict or challenge that really propels you to do this thing and to move forward with it. I think you're going to see a lot of success. So don't doubt yourself. Just take the inspired action as you feel called. Then on Saturday, there could be a bigger shift around that as well, or emotional clarity, as the moon is going to harmonize with Uranus and Taurus and your 10th and second houses. So again, this could be like you're launching something and it really pays off. You really start to see like a lot of success with whatever this venture is that you're really doing. But again, it could bring up some triggers or wounds around you, your identity, your sense of self, as the moon is also going to challenge Chiron and Aries in your first house. Then later in the day on Saturday, the moon's going to move over Pluto, prompting for a major transformation in whatever has been coming up for you around all of this stuff. And there could be some further challenges or friction on Sunday related to that maybe, again, give you more clarity about how you want to move forward and evolve or grow due to what's happening and how this is showing up for you. So that's the week ahead for you, Aries. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Taurus, we start the week off early on Monday with the moon in your 7th house. There could be some big breakthrough or shift around you, your relationships, your family life, your home life in some way that maybe is like you get clarity on how you want to bring any revelations or ideas or insights, breakthroughs into what you're doing for your career. Or there could be some like, I'm just going to go like channel this into something in my work that helps release whatever tension or friction is there between all those areas of your life. Then later in the day on Monday, the moon is going to move into your 8th house, into Sagittarius. This is where the full moon is going to be for you. So there could be some big manifestation or clarity around resources, money, all that kind of stuff. Maybe, debt, inheritance, taxes, real estate, or, however it relates to what's going on in your actual life is going to be different based on your chart. But like with Jupiter and Mercury moving into your 3rd house too, I feel like this is about like how you're communicating and how you're like maybe delegating or taking care of all of your resources in like a structured way that is going to be like beneficial long term. It's almost like hiring a financial advisor or planner or bookkeeper or accountant or something like that, where it's like you kind of maybe need support in being able to take better care of the stuff that's coming up for you. And it might feel like it once you do it, it'll take a mental load off too. It could support your mental health if there's been challenges there, maybe just asking for support in the ways that you need to be able to take a load off. I feel like I already said that, but that's really what it feels like. Then on Wednesday, we're going to have the full moon, like I said, in your eighth house. It's going to harmonize with Mars and Chiron and Aries. So Mars and Leo and Chiron and Aries. So this could bring just clarity around everything that came up earlier in the week on how you want to move forward with it. Maybe the changes, again, you need to make, or delegating, hiring help for, whatever's going on for you. Feels like that could be really beneficial, although it might stretch your belief systems or your what you've thought of as like possible for yourself and your reality. Then on Thursday, the moon is going to move into Capricorn in your ninth house, putting again a focus on like how are you viewing life around you? What are you believing to be true about how things get to be for you, and how can you make necessary shifts there that are going to support where you're headed versus like just operating from the past. Then later in the day, then Friday, we have the moon continuing to move through Capricorn. It's going to harmonize with that will be later in the day on Thursday. It's going to harmonize with Venus in your first house. So there could be some emotional like clarity or breakthrough that happens around all of this. And then Friday, it feels like there might just be more of a focus on like, okay, how do I structure this? What do I need? Who do I talk to? That kind of thing. And then Saturday could bring a really big breakthrough around that, either late Friday or early Saturday, as the moon is going to harmonize with Uranus in Taurus. Mercury is moving really fast through Cancer. By the end of the week, it's already halfway through your third house, which is nuts. Then later in the day on Saturday, the moon's going to move over Pluto, again, prompting for some big transformation in terms of your career, how you're showing up there, what you're doing, and the emotional drive that's backing everything that you're doing in your career. It can also feel like there's a challenge, just a mood, a challenging thing that happens between your career and your sense of self. Maybe just not feeling like yourself, not feeling like you don't like your appearance or you don't like something about what has changed in you. And that might feel like at odds with what you want to do and how you want to move forward with all this clarity that you've received. So there could be challenges there for you to work through temporarily. But again, I think it all comes back to your belief systems and how you're supporting yourself and your mental health through all of that that's coming up. So that's the week ahead for you, Taurus. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. All right, Gemini Rising. We start the week off on Monday with the moon in your sixth house. There could be some really big breakthrough around how you're sharing yourself, your ideas, your spiritual gifts, how you're supporting your physical and mental health and balancing all of those things. It feels like there's a lot of clarity around the balancing act that you're in. With Mercury moving into your second house and then Jupiter following it later in the day on Monday, there's this big shift of focus into your money, into your resources, how you're making it, and how it's, maybe how you're making it in ways that really support you, that feel good to you. So there's this really big need and focus for you to support yourself through your resources. Maybe it's with better food or like outsourcing food so that it's not falling off and you're actually like taking care of yourself in the ways that you need. It also feels like on Tuesday earlier in the week, there's this shift between, your values around mental health and how you're viewing what gets to be possible for you in terms of your life. With Jupiter and Mercury squaring Saturn and Neptune, in your second and 11th houses all week, it might feel like there's this conflicts or challenges between your network, your community, maybe social media, however that applies, and how you're making money. This could be like, I don't know, this could be little arguments within your friend groups that like help you to realize what you need to be doing better. It can also be like there's this need to expand how you have viewed your life. There's this need to change or really just sit down and set bigger goals for yourself when it comes to your long-term visions. You might have been feeling this energy of like stagnation, and this is going to propel you into some big expansion as it relates to like your long-term pursuits. On Wednesday, you're going to have the full moon in Sagittarius in your seventh house. So there could be some clarity around or revelation around relationships or bringing somebody into your life that really feels supportive for you or feels really expansive too. I feel like this time period for you, Gemini, is all about expansion. How can you integrate what's coming up for you in terms of like thinking bigger picture? And you might be attracting people in your life who are helping you to do that right now, especially right after the full moon. Then on Thursday, the moon is going to move into your eighth house. So you might be just reflecting or making internal shifts, changes around what you received clarity about that could be related to money. You might be setting up better structures or systems in your finances or what you're doing with your resources, how you're investing, how you're spending, how you're saving, how you're making money. Again, the focus with Jupiter and Cancer is all about for you, are you making money in ways that really nourish and support you? And if not, what needs to be adjusted there? It feels like this could also bring some shifts, some positive changes in like your mental state, your mental health. Maybe like spending money on yourself in ways that you have maybe been putting off, and like you're realizing like, okay, I can't neglect that. Then on Friday, as the moon continues to move through your eighth house, I think you will be integrating what's been, the clarity you've been receiving. And then later in the day on Friday, the moon is going to square Chiron. So there could be wounds that come up as it relates to like your long-term goals and like your resources. So this could look like having a limiting belief around being able to buy property or invest in the ways that you want to because you have been maybe thinking smaller than what is going to support those goals and those dreams for you. Then on Saturday, there is some big shift around that. I would say early in the day on Saturday as the moon moves over Pluto. There could be this big kind of like aha moment and revelation of like how your belief systems have really been playing into the way you're experiencing the world and in the changes you want to make there to change the world around you. Um, yeah, I mean, it just feels like a lot of big shifts, like challenges, chaos, but it is supporting you to getting where you need to go. So that's the week ahead for you, Gemini. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Cancer, we start the week off with the moon in your fifth house. There could be some breakthrough or revelation around a passion, a project, creative pursuit, things like that related to your long-term goals and visions. I think a lot of that has been changing for you. With Mercury moving into your first house too, you might be feeling more communicative, more expressive, maybe even related to the challenges or the conflict you've been facing in your career that has just kind of been evolving and building all year. It's almost like things come to a head and you can no longer ignore it. And there's this big need through the conflict, through the chaos to evolve and to transform. All the ways that this has been showing up for you. And as Jupiter moves into your first house, I mean, this is all about you, your expansion, maybe even in your appearance or your sense of self, your identity in general. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have the full moon in your sixth and 12th houses. So you might be getting clarity or revelations around changes you want to make in your work life that support your physical and mental health. That might have been like a big focus of the past year is like, okay, how can I expand my mental health and my practices to be able to take better care of my mental state? Like what needs to happen, what needs to change there. And that might come to a head with this full moon on Wednesday. And then later in the day on Wednesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Chiron and Aries in your 10th house and Mars and Leo in your second house. This could look like you really taking action on some creative project or pursuit that really pays off financially for you. And it's maybe something you've been doing a lot of healing around of like, okay, well, I realized I had this limiting belief around, is this going to do well? Is it going to really be really successful? And you just do it and it does. It does really pay off, but it's also questioning it. It's bringing up or having you question rather like your sense of self, and it's calling for a bigger expansion there, even if it does feel like challenging. It's almost like you're being asked to push past any glass ceiling you've perceived that is there for you. Then on Thursday, the moon moves into your seventh house. So there could be some supportive conversations you're having or people in your life that support you emotionally when it comes to making these changes and acting on them. That might be a theme later in the week as the moon does move through your seventh house until we get into Saturday. Then later in the day on Thursday, it's going to harmonize with Venus in your 11th house. So again, it feels like there's supportive people that are here to kind of help you step into this new version of you. Later in the day on Friday, the moon is going to harmonize with Uranus in your 11th house. So again, there could be some conversation or breakthrough you have emotionally related to somebody in your life that feels really supportive. But it also could maybe happen after you get really triggered about something. Then on Saturday, the moon's going to move over Pluto in your eighth house and Aquarius, asking for you to really transform emotionally, like what's going on underneath the surface about all of this kind of stuff. And like I said, Jupiter in your first house squaring Saturn in your 10th house this week is really about how can you bust through any perceived limitations in your career and step into a new identity of like, this is what I'm doing. It's going to work out because I decide that it is. So that is the really big shift that I see happening for you over the weekend, Cancer, that kind of builds all week. So that's the week ahead for you. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Then we're going to be halfway through June. That's absolutely insane. Okay, Leo Rising. We start the week off with the moon early on Monday and Scorpio opposite Uranus in your 10th house. This could be some big shift or breakthrough around your home and your career. It could be, something just coming in kind of last minute that's like, oh, this is actually what I want to do. And with Mercury moving into Cancer in your 12th house, the mental focus is what's going to support me, my mental health, my spirituality, my journey of like taking better care of me and my needs. Then later in the day on Monday, the moon's going to move into your 5th house where you're going to have the full moon in Sagittarius. Also later on Monday, Jupiter moves into your 12th house, expanding your spiritual pursuits, right? And expanding your focus on your mental health, your mental and spiritual health. Could be related to your career in some way, whether that's like getting a job that feels really good to you in a lot of ways and is aligned with your values and like where you yourself are headed when it comes to all of these things. I feel like the full moon on Wednesday is really going to bring some clarity around your creative passions, pursuits, maybe even your network, your community, could even be where you're living. I feel like there's a lot of changes happening for you that are unexpected, and not only in terms of like your sense of self, but also in your career, and you're just kind of like trying to ride the waves. But there could be some big breakthrough around all of that later in the day on Wednesday after the full moon that really maybe triggers a wound to be brought up that is ultimately going to require you to have courage and faith in the unseen and in the unknown. And especially with Saturn and Neptune squaring Jupiter and Mercury in your 12th house, this is a big reality shift that's occurring for you of like choosing to see things differently than you have before. That could come to a head on Thursday as the moon moves into your 6th house in a Capricorn and opposes Jupiter and Mercury in your 12th house. There could be this, emotionally challenging conversation around like boundaries or things that you really just need to like prioritize about your physical and mental health and everything that is either supporting that or taking away from that that's in your life right now. Then on Friday, later in the day on Friday, the moon is going to harmonize with Uranus in your 10th house. So there could be, again, some breakthroughs around what you're doing for work and how that's supporting your livelihood and your mental and physical health. But it could also challenge your identity. It could challenge the way you've been seeing yourself and viewing yourself. And really just shake up your whole perspective of life. Then on Saturday, the moon is going to move over Pluto in Aquarius in your 7th house. This could be a big shift around relationships. It could feel like a power dynamic switches or something like that, or there's just this big emotional death and rebirth as it relates to other people in your life and how you're relating to them, what you're attracting, versus again, it's all kind of like, does it support me or does this not support me, and throwing out everything that doesn't support you. And it all kind of comes to a head over the weekend, especially as we have Jupiter going exact and squaring Saturn over the weekend as well in your 9th and 12th houses. It's a big shift of how you're viewing life, and how you're viewing like the world around you supporting you. Does that make sense, Leo? So that's the week ahead for you. Let me know how that resonates in the comments, and I will see you next week. Okay, Virgo, we start the week off early on Monday with the moon in your 3rd house opposite Uranus in your 9th house. This could be some big breakthrough around your perception, your communication, your belief systems, like maybe that changes where you're going or who you're talking to or what you're doing on a daily basis. It's almost like this big overhaul, this big, especially with the South Node in your first house, it's like this big release of how you have been going about life, and stepping into all of these new kind of patterns that are emerging as being more beneficial for you. With Mercury moving into your 11th house, you could be really busy socially, with Jupiter following later in the day on Monday too. There could be this big focus on your friends, your community, how you're showing up to the world around you on social media in ways that feel supportive and nurturing, and like vice versa. Like there's an equal give and take with how you're showing up and what you're receiving from showing up. There could be something like a belief system that is challenged on Monday, as well as Mercury is going to square Saturn in your eighth house. Could be about resources or money, of like, okay, what do I actually do to go about making it in the ways that I need, that really do feel, again, supportive and nurturing. Also could be a big theme of Jupiter moving into your 11th house, as it's going to square Saturn as well. It's like, how can you push past any limitations that maybe are just a mental thing, that maybe aren't actually like true, they're just kind of like how you're viewing the world. And there's this need to expand your horizons when it comes to what you're seeing as possible for yourself and how you can make things happen. Um, with the full moon that's happening in your fourth house in Sagittarius, there could be some big breakthrough or manifestation around your home, your family life. This could be like, again, those limiting beliefs or conditioning that is kind of keeping you stuck in things you don't want to be in, coming up for you to look at in order to shift and transform, and just release anything that's still residual there that was passed down from your family, that is affecting your mindset and how you're viewing and going about life. Also, early in the week, there could be challenge or conflict between that and your transformation as it relates to work and what you're doing. I just feel like there's all these big shifts happening, and it's almost like you have thrown all the puzzle pieces down and you don't know how they all come together yet, but it's like working just with what you can when you can is gonna help it all like come together as it needs to on a better foundation, I feel like. Again, that full moon is on Wednesday. You could get breakthroughs or clarity early on Wednesday, and then later on Wednesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Mars in your 12th house, as well as Chiron in your 8th house. Oh my God. Maybe big throat chakra things of like learning how to speak up for yourself and your needs, and not hiding yourself away anymore, or letting passive aggressive tendencies kind of take over because you weren't speaking up for yourself and what you need. This feels like supported healing in the transformation that's been occurring. Then on Thursday, the moon's moving into your fifth house of creative passions, pursuits, projects. So there could be things that you maybe feel really busy with, and it feels like social energy is pulling you in one direction, but you're also like, I need to take care of these creative things that I have to do. So Thursday could feel challenging in that regard. It could feel like, again, there's this tug of war between what needs to be done and what you feel like doing. Then on Friday, as the moon continues to move through Capricorn, it is going to square Chiron and Aries in your eighth house. So there could be something that comes up, like a mental block around what you're creating, sharing with the world, related to that, what came up earlier in the week, the limiting beliefs around what's possible for you and resources, and making that happen for yourself. I mean, there's a lot of challenge and conflict this week, but there's also miracles that can happen when you take the inspired action. There's a lot of like harmony as much as there is chaos and tension and conflict. Like it feels like it's almost like it's coming at you like from all angles, all directions, but you're how do I say that? You're collecting all of it, and then you're like, okay, I can make this from that, and I can make like it's like you're turning shit to gold this week. And that could come to a head over the weekend especially on Saturday, as the moon moves over Pluto in your sixth house. So again, it feels like there's this, you transformed whatever you were given and made it better. And it might be beneficial for you in terms of what you're doing for work in that regard too, and pushing past that glass ceiling that maybe has been there in terms of what you're doing and how you're making money in ways that feel more aligned and supportive for you overall. So that's the week ahead for you, Virgo. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Libra, we start the week off on Monday with the moon in Scorpio in your second house, opposite Uranus in Taurus in your eighth house. There could be some big shifts, breakthroughs late on Sunday, early Monday. about money and how you're making it, and maybe what actions need to be taken in order to create more resources for yourself. Maybe related to some emotional passion or obsession that you personally have, and taking action to align yourself with what you've been getting clarity around as it relates to your long-term goals and visions. It also feels like there's a lot of opportunity, especially around this full moon and after the full moon on Wednesday, to really speak your mind, to really communicate yourself in this kind of unapologetic way that's going to heal you and also benefit your relationships, benefit again your community, your friendships, your presence on social media. It's going to benefit like every other area of your life. It just starts with you speaking your truth in a way that is authentic, in a way that is, coming from a place of true self-worth. I mean, with Venus in your 8th house, it's like that's kind of the focus of your transformation right now, is stepping into a new version of worthiness and standards and values for yourself that maybe have been underneath the surface, that need to kind of emerge and be embodied. With Jupiter and Mercury this week moving into your 10th house too, there's a huge focus on your career, what you're doing there, how you're showing up, how you're being seen. I mean, Jupiter moving through your 10th house, it's a once in a 12-year cycle. And this is really a big time of expansion in your career, your reputation, how you're seen in the world, through what you're doing, what you're sharing, how you're supporting others with your gifts. There's so much going on this week. But on Thursday, it could feel like there's tension, there's emotional conflict between your home, your family, and what you're doing in your career. It could feel like there's a tug of war between the two. Like you want to expand in your career in certain ways, but there's just limitations, there's restrictions, maybe in your home, maybe through relationships or due to relationships in some form or fashion. That really kind of is brought to your awareness on Thursday. Friday, it feels like there is some big transformation that is supported, again, related to home, family, limiting beliefs that maybe were passed down through family, and how you're viewing like your worth, and how that's playing into your money, your resources, what's available for you, and maybe even how you're showing up on social media or with your friends or with your community. It's like it's all tied in together, and there's this big shifting that's happening for you at a foundational level that's affecting everything else. It's like this ripple effect that is, it starts with you and then it's rippling out positively to every other area of your life. And you could really see this big recalibration this week happening because of these foundational shifts that are taking place. Then on Saturday, the moon's gonna move over Pluto in your 5th house, again, furthering that energy. This could be something that whatever came up earlier in the week, it was like you got creative fuel from it and it helped you to launch something or to create something, and maybe a passion project. It feels like you're going to be feeling very creatively inspired from everything that happened earlier in the week. Even if it was frustrating, or challenging or chaotic, it does feel like it's kind of like your muse. Like it's inspiring you to create and to share and to do more than maybe you have in the recent past. And then with Jupiter squaring Saturn in your 10th and 7th houses, again, it could feel like there's friction or there's tension between how you want to expand in your career and limitations or challenges. What is the word I'm looking for? Like commitments that are in your relationships. Those two areas feel like at odds with one another, but there is a way that I feel like you can learn to harmonize those things, and it just is going to require a little bit discipline and maybe thinking outside of the box to move with that energy in a way that is going to benefit you long term and short term. So that is the week ahead for you, Libra. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Scorpio, we start the week off with the moon in your 1st house, opposite Uranus in your 7th house. It's late on Sunday or early Monday. There could be some big breakthrough or shift around your sense of self, your identity, your relationships, how your relationships are playing into that. That maybe is also showing up in your career. It's like maybe you've been taking action in your career in new ways and it's really propelling this identity shift, and then relationships are mirroring that to you as well in maybe a chaotic way. But the release of all of that is through your home. Maybe making necessary changes to your home that you need to support these moving parts. Then on later in the day on Monday, the moon's going to move into your 2nd house in Sagittarius, where the full moon is going to be on Wednesday. This is going to bring about a manifestation or a culmination, a completion of a cycle around money, finances, maybe something you've been manifesting for 6 months. Really kind of also a new mindset around money. Sagittarius is really the sign of like, okay, what's my ultimate truth here and how are my belief systems playing into that and creating the reality that I experience. I mean, with Jupiter and Mercury moving into your ninth house too, there's this big expansion in terms of the possibilities of life and how you're viewing what is happening to you in your life, and maybe what you're communicating about what gets to be possible for you. That maybe is different than what you've been doing before. And it might feel like there's restrictions, there's odds with your daily schedule that play into this, but I do feel like it's propelling you into a mindset shift that is ultimately going to benefit you, in making those changes. Then after the full moon on Wednesday, we're going to have harmony between the moon, Chiron, and Mars in your 10th house. I mean, all your work areas, your money areas, the second house, sixth house, 10th house. This is really big harmony between like what you're doing in your career, how it's making you money, and how it's maybe been healing your health even in a lot of ways, or just the way you're going about your daily life. Then on Thursday, the moon is moving into your third house, in Capricorn, opposite Jupiter and Mercury in your ninth house. So again, big breakthroughs around your limiting beliefs, communication, how you're sharing yourself and your ideas, maybe how, in your business and your work. There could be some positive shifts around that happen through whatever challenges do come up. And then again, with Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune in your sixth house, it's like you want to expand in these ways, but right now it kind of has to be like a mental expansion because it does feel like there's physical limitations around what you're able to do on a daily basis. So if that shows up in terms of like you're getting all these ideas and you want to act on them right away, but you physically cannot, write them down, right? Brain dump everything. So it has somewhere to land. Then on Friday, the moon in Capricorn is going to harmonize with Uranus and Taurus in your seventh house. It feels like there could be some supportive conversation that happens through somebody in your life. But before that, there might be some emotional trigger or wound that comes up. That kind of prompts for that conversation, as the moon is going to square Chiron before it harmonizes with Uranus. So that wound, that trigger that's brought up, could actually propel suddenly and unexpectedly something positive within a relationship. Then on Saturday, the moon's going to move over Pluto in your fourth house. There could be some big shift, breakthrough around your home, your family life, and what your moves you're making, or things that you're have been wanting to do, wanting to shift about your home. It feels like there could be some emotional clarity around that, maybe, but then there's again some kind of challenge that comes about in a relationship or through somebody else in your life. But I do feel like that emotional clarity is just going to feel like a lightness in terms of like what you're doing and how you're moving forward in your home. But there could also be, because of that, some unexpected shift in your work, your career, or maybe a relationship itself. So that's the week ahead for you, Scorpio. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Sagittarius Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 12th house, opposite Uranus in your 6th house. There could be some big emotional breakthrough related to your mental and physical health, your work, how you're making money, how your belief systems and your philosophies of life are playing into all that in ways that maybe don't support you. There's a lot of healing happening in your creative pursuits, passions, especially with Jupiter and Mercury moving into your 8th house. There's this big expansion of your psyche, your subconscious, and what is transforming about all of those things due to what's coming up in your life that's prompting, propelling you into a transformation of it. On Tuesday, we are ramping up for the full moon in Sagittarius that's happening in your first house. So this could be some big breakthroughs or shifts around your identity. And again, how your philosophies of life, your belief systems are playing into your sense of self, and just your like how you're going about life in general. There's also this big need to transform your like how you view your work and like your worthiness when it comes to what you're doing for work. It's almost like you have to see yourself differently. You really have, there's this big push to transform how you're viewing what you do for work and seeing it as like, no, this is actually like very, very valuable, and it needs to be in ways that are going to harbor the value. Does that make sense? Like it's almost like your work is deeply transformative, and it needs to have that tied into it in some way, whether it's raising your prices or only working with, being really selective with who you work with, people who are ready for a transformation. It feels like you're getting a lot of clarity around that, especially after the full moon on Wednesday. That is going to be after the full moon. The moon is going to be harmonizing with Mars in your ninth house and Chiron in your fifth house. There could be some big emotional breakthrough and harmony that happens from whatever came up earlier in the week of like, okay, this is how I'm going to go about this. This is how I'm going to do it. Um, really stepping into the healed version of you as it relates to moving forward with these things that you got clarity around. Then on Thursday, the moon moves into your second house, opposite Jupiter and Mercury in your eighth house. So there might be just some emotional conflict or tension between your money and other people's money, or how you're giving money to other people, or money that's coming in from other people and what you're doing with it. There just could be some like tug of war between your resources and maybe needing to like just structure your resources in ways that do feel supportive for you and just kind of reevaluating that. It also feels like there might be some tension or challenges as Jupiter starts to square Saturn and Neptune in your fifth house, between your resources and like the creative things that you're doing with money or to make money. That could come to a head over the weekend, and there could be some trigger or wound that comes up around that, as on Friday the moon is going to square Chiron in your fifth house. So there could be some challenges between like what you're doing creatively and how it's bringing in money for you, or like someone owes you money and it's just like been a challenge trying to get that, and it's really bringing up a lot of triggers or wounds around being supported through your creative passions and pursuits. Again, this kind of like this theme around seeing your work and what you do as worthy of compensation and like massive compensation. But then I think there could be some emotional breakthrough or shift that happens around that Friday into Saturday, that does feel positive for you and gives you kind of answers and clarity in the ways that you've maybe been wanting to have for a little bit. Saturday, especially true as the moon moves over Pluto in your third house. There could be some breakthrough in your communication, your ideas, how you're sharing yourself, and what you're believing gets to be true about the way that you're showing up for others, through the sharing of your own magic. And again, we're going to have that Jupiter square Saturn transit go exact over the weekend between your fifth and eighth houses. So could feel like you want to expand in certain ways, but there are limitations in what you're able to do physically or creatively. But again, I do think this is prompting for you to really shift your mindset around things and seeing new horizons that maybe you didn't realize were there before. So that is the week ahead for you, Sagittarius. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Capricorn Rising. We start the week off with the moon in your 11th house, opposite Uranus and Taurus in your 5th house. There could be early Monday or late Sunday, some big breakthroughs around your community, your creative passions, how you're sharing those with the world, and maybe even your resources, how all those things are tying into your resources in some way. With Mercury and Jupiter moving into your 7th house, there's a big focus on relationships, nurturing relationships that feel supportive, removing yourself or just taking a step back from relationships that don't feel supportive, is going to be a major theme around this time, especially with Jupiter moving through that area of your chart for the next year. But it does feel like there could be some limitations around that due to something that's happening in your home, in your family, with Saturn and Neptune in your 4th house. But on Monday, there could be some emotional support mentally, like a breakthrough that happens related to whatever that is. And then that kind of gears us up and ramps up the energy for the full moon that will be occurring in your 12th house. That could really propel you into some big mental shift or breakthrough, and put kind of a focus on, okay, how can I just like take care of me through all that's going on? Like, how can I ground? What practices or spiritual things or mindset things do I need to have in place to take better care of myself despite what's happening all around me? Then after the full moon on Wednesday, the moon in Sagittarius is going to harmonize with Chiron in your 4th house and Mars in your 8th house. So again, there could be some big emotional shift or breakthrough around all of that's come up that's felt challenging. Like the answers kind of present themselves just maybe on a whim or maybe even in a meditation. Then later in the day on Wednesday, the moon moves into your 1st house and opposes Jupiter and Mercury in your 7th house. Could be like there's some emotional tug of war between you, and some other people in your life. It could just feel like, okay, how do we bring this into balance? If there's tension there, how do we balance this out? kind of thing. But it does feel like also Wednesday into Thursday, there's harmony between you and what you're doing creatively, what you're sharing with the world as it relates to your creative passions or pursuits. Um, then on Friday, you're gonna have I keep saying Mercury instead of the moon. You're gonna have you're gonna have the moon challenge Chiron in your fourth house. There could be some not comfy things that come up on Friday through somebody in your life, a family member, somebody in your home that really kind of challenges you emotionally. And it feels like, okay, how do I bring this into like balance? How do I work through this? But I think it's again related to what came up with the full moon, your practices that you need to have in place that are going to support you through anything that's happening externally that you can't maybe control. And I do feel like that whatever trigger or wound is brought up on Friday later in the day, there is going to be before the moon moves into Aquarius, harmony between the moon and Capricorn and Uranus and Taurus. So that could propel you into some creative pursuit. It could be like a muse or an inspirational thing. In some way, as much as it maybe is challenging at first, you kind of, there's a shift that happens around it and you see it as like, it gives you creative inspiration around something that maybe benefits your money in a positive way, especially on Saturday as the moon moves into Aquarius in your second house and over Pluto. Feels like there could be some positive shift around your finances, the ways that you're making, maybe tied to an emotional desire, or again, like whatever has been coming up for you in your home, your relationships, that's anything that's felt challenging. It feels like this could be the emotional clarity breakthrough that you've maybe been seeking around all of these things that could propel you into some new creative project or pursuit. So that is the week ahead for you, Capricorn. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Okay, Aquarius, we start the week off with the moon in Scorpio in your 10th house, opposite Uranus and Taurus in your fourth house. This could bring about some breakthrough in your career, your home, your family life. Maybe somebody in your life like brought this to you, or it could be like a fight you had with somebody in your life that like propels you to realize something needs to change. And it might even be related to like your identity, your appearance, your sense of self. It could feel like you are the release of this energy that's challenging these areas of your life. But I do feel like it's supporting, as much as it is challenging, it's supporting the direction you're headed with money. Then on Monday, the moon moves into Sagittarius as Jupiter and Mercury move into Cancer in your sixth house. This is going to put that focus on your day-to-day work and routine, what you're doing to take care of your mental and physical health, and how you're balancing those things out. Like, despite what's going on around you, it does feel like there's a need for you to really ground yourself and have these supportive, nurturing practices that are going to support you no matter what's happening. It does feel like there's a lot of conflict between your home, your family, and your sense of self. Yeah, that doesn't feel comfy, but I do feel like it is supporting you and moving into some new direction with what you're doing. And that might even be what comes up around the full moon for you, Tuesday into Wednesday, as it's going to be in your 11th house of long-term goals and visions. You might be getting clarity around what you want to change as it relates to your visions for the future and yourself. And what you're doing creatively and the passion projects that you're sharing with the world. It's almost like, okay, do I want to keep doing what I've been doing, or do I want to step into something new that is more ultimately aligned with how I've viewed my future kind of energy? And then after the full moon on Wednesday, the moon is going to harmonize with Mars and Leo in your seventh house and Chiron in your third house. So there could be something that you get clarity around. All of a sudden, you're like, I have to share this. I'm going to take action on this. And there could be somebody in your life that supports you and being able to do that in the ways that you need. With Jupiter squaring Saturn in your third house, it does feel like there's a lot of just like busyness, and there's a lot of like all of a sudden there's a lot of things you have to do in your day to day, but you don't know how to structure time out for them because of other obligations you have. So that could be an issue that especially comes to a head on Wednesday as the moon moves into Capricorn and opposes Mercury and Jupiter in your sixth house. It feels like there's a need for you to prioritize your mental practices, spiritual practices, no matter what, because it's going to help you deal with the chaos of your day to day. Maybe having that like 20-minute meditation or 10-minute meditation as soon as you get up so that you're not just like swept away by the day and that you do have some grounding cord. Wednesday kind of feels chaotic for you, Aquarius. And then as we get later into the week on Friday, the moon is going to square Chiron in your third house before it harmonizes with Uranus. So there could be some wound or trigger that's brought up through communication or an errand or somebody you connect with, maybe even a neighbor or a sibling or something like that. That kind of propels you to look at what you're doing to take care of your mental health. Again, the spiritual and energetic practices you have in place to be able to do that. But it does feel like there's some emotional shift and harmony that's brought afterwards from your home or from your family. But there can also feel like that's at odds with like a relationship or just somebody else in your life that you maybe haven't been getting along with. That feels really challenging, and it feels like it's contributing to all these wounds and triggers that are being brought up. Then on Saturday, there could be some big emotional shift in terms of like yourself, your identity, that maybe comes through a conflict or a challenge that happens in your home, or like this shift in how you're viewing yourself adds to a challenge or a conflict within your home and in your family. This none of this feels like super comfortable for you, Aquarius. I gotta be honest, but I do feel like it's getting you to focus on what matters and to prioritize things that actually are gonna benefit you moving forward versus just like doing the same old because it's comfortable and that's just what you've done. So it is propelling you into a transformation, and those are never comfortable, but I do feel like it's going to be ultimately positive for you in the long run. So that's the week ahead for you. Let me know how it resonates, and I'll see you next week. Okay, Pisces, we start the week off with the moon opposite Uranus and your ninth and third houses. This could be some big breakthrough or shift around your perception of life, your belief systems, your communication, how you're sharing ideas and your creative passions and projects with the world. With Mercury moving into, and Jupiter moving into your fifth house, this is a big focus on sharing your creative passions, your projects, your paintings, your art, your spiritual gifts, like whatever it is. It's like you need to be sharing that. I don't know if you heard that like ding, but I feel like that was confirmation. There's some big transformation happening for you as it relates to that, and it's pushing and propelling you into this journey of sharing your creative gifts with the world. And that could be, the focus of the full moon for you, as the full moon's going to be in your 10th house. And it's almost like what needs to change about your belief systems, what needs to change about how you're viewing yourself and your career, and maybe what you do as worthy of being seen, of being something that you make money from, something that is like a full-blown career for you instead of just like a fun hobby that you do. It's like, no, this is what you're meant to be doing. Like, it's your gift, embrace it. And I feel like the full moon, like all of Wednesday, is just going to bring that up for you and kind of amplify that need for you to really heal any wounds or triggers related to making money from whatever this thing is, and just do it and put it out there to the world because it is your calling. You wouldn't have the gift that you do if it wasn't meant to be shared. So there's a big focus on just pushing past any limiting beliefs, and not acting from them, and kind of like retraining yourself to see your magic and that it's worthy of being shared. Um, then on Thursday, there could be some tension between your community, your social media, like how you're showing up there, the structures you have in place there, and those creative things that you're sharing. It could feel like, okay, well, my friends are wanting me to do this, but like I need to do this in order to like get it out into the world or whatever. And it almost feels like, how do I balance these two things? So that could be something that comes up, or you might just sleep through this depending on where you are in the world. Um, it may not affect you that much because it's just going to last a few hours, but it does feel like there could be the potential for conflict between your friends, community, social media, and like what you're sharing and how you're making money from this new pursuit and thing that you're choosing to really step into. Um, okay, then Friday into Saturday, we have the moon challenging Chiron in your second house again, kind of bringing all these wounds and triggers about money um, to a head for you to look at to reframe them. And then with Jupiter squaring Saturn in your fifth and second houses, it's like there's this need to expand and push past some glass ceiling in your creative pursuits and passions, but it feels like you have to be a little bit responsible with money. You can't just kind of like go all out and like, you know what I mean? Like you have to kind of have maybe a little bit of a plan. Whenever the moon's in Capricorn, it really propels us to kind of, get serious about a plan or a schedule or whatever, lay those foundations so that what we do build on is going to be successful and it's not going to crumble and fall apart if one thing were to go wrong. So it feels like, as much as it might challenge you, it is going to propel you to just have some systems and structures in place that are needed for you to do what you want to do. Okay, and then especially later on Saturday, as the moon moves over Pluto in your 12th house, there could be some big mental shift or breakthrough around whatever was coming up earlier um, in the week that challenges you to really look at things differently, or to have like practices in place that again ground you and support you in making these changes and don't feel so chaotic or like you're swimming in the ocean without a life jacket or anything. So that is what the week looks like for you, Pisces. Let me know how that resonates, and I will see you next week. Oh my God, the lighting got so dark. All right, I feel like that was a long one. This week is a lot. But I do feel like it's setting the framework for the rest of the year, and really, we're in a 9 year. I feel like I've been talking about this in all my videos. I think I talked about it in the Jupiter and Cancer video I recently posted. Like, we're in a 9 year. This is all about endings. This is all about what needs to go so we can really have a fresh start, so we can have a new beginning. And really start that spin-off show. Like 2026 is a 1 year. It's all about new beginnings. What is starting? The new chapter, right? And this year is all about wrapping up, and it really all comes to a head this week. Um, so we can have that expansive new beginning that doesn't feel like anything is bogging us down from our past. So that's the week ahead. Let me know how your horoscope resonated with you in the comments, or what's going on for you. I would love to hear from you guys. I love connecting with y'all in the comments, or come join my inner circle if you want a more intimate space to do that, and vent or ask questions about your chart. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye.